Today we are going to understand the existence of the Mesopotamian civilization through some of its short notes. So when we talk about the Mesopotamian civilization, the first point that comes is that it existed between the two rivers named as the river Tigris and the river Euphrates. Those rise in the mountains of Turkey, and both the rivers flow through Syria and Iraq and pour into the Persian Gulf. So the land between these two rivers is called Mesopotamia. It is bounded on the west by the Arabian Desert and on the east by the Iranian mountain. 6,000 years ago, the region gave rise to a civilization which is known as the Mesopotamian civilization. This civilization of Crescent, Mesopotamian civilization, was also known as the civilization of Crescent just because the first fertile crescent of land from Persian Gulf to the Mediterranean Sea. Now, when we talk about the southernmost part of Mesopotamia or the heart of Mesopotamian civilization was the Sumer, northern region was called Babylon, central region was called Akkad. The highland in the northeast was Assyria. The Mesopotamian civilization 3500 BC to 500 BC it existed. It was ruled by the Sumerians before being taken over by the Babylonians and then Assyrian. When Cyrus of Persia, modern Iraq, conquered the kingdom. Now, when we talk about the city states, so each city state of Mesopotamia was the capital of a small state. These were called city state. Each city state controlled approximately 100 square kilometer battle were fought between city states for power and resources. The whole civilization was also under the constant threat of invasions from the nomadic wandering tribes from the desert. The main city of Mesopotamia were Babylon, Uruk, Eridu, Lagash, and Ur. Each city worshipped a god and had a ziggurat or temple tower. So basically, the temple tower in the Mesopotamian civilization were known as the ziggurat, and it is known that when we have the worshipping proof in Harappan civilization, similarly we have the worship proof in the Mesopotamian civilization. The ziggurat was built of sun-baked bricks on the artificial hill in the sacred area. So basically, these ziggurats were built of the sun-baked bricks. The ziggurats were massive and could be seen far miles around the city. So basically, these were very tall and very big, so that we can see them from a very far area. The sacred part of the city was also the administrative center where the storehouse and offices were located. And these ziggurats were also used as the administrative centers and the storehouse and the offices. The cities were great, but they were not well planned. So as we see in the Harappan civilization, the cities used to be well planned. We used to have well planned roads, but in ancient Mesopotamia, the cities were not well planned because streets were narrow. Most houses had a central courtyard with rooms around. Now, when we talk about the structure, so mud, reed, and palm trees freely available used as raw materials for the buildings. Later, people began to use bricks. Now, when we talk about the Mesopotamian society, the society was divided into several distinct classes. The king was the most important person in the society. He was regarded as God representative on earth. Next important person was the priest. The officers and scribe writers were next on the social scale. When we talk about the next, the merchants, landowners, and craftsmen formed the majority of the middle class. The prisoners of war were taken as slaves along with the peasants. They formed the lowest rank on the social ladder. Army was very important. All free citizens had to serve in the army. Now, when we talk about the rule of the king, how king used to rule in the ancient Mesopotamian civilization, so basically the priest king who first ruled Mesopotamian were not autocratic to have absolute power. The king you do not have the absolute power, but they used to follow the rules that the priest used to say them. King position were no hereditary. The positions were not hereditary. We cannot say that if the king, the son of the king will be the king. No, this was not really in the ancient Mesopotamian civilization. The king positions were not hereditary. They were elected somehow. King was responsible for building of canals and roadways for irrigation and transport. King was responsible for administration of justice and the protection of the poor. Now, when we talk about the occupation, what were the occupations of the people? How people used to lead their life? So basically, the main occupation of the people over there was the agriculture. They used to grow wheat, barley, pulses, fruits, and vegetables. Little rainfall, the solution, perennial irrigation, where in canals could carry water throughout the year. The width of these canals made them navigable. They were used to transport good and people. Invention was there were two main invention in the ancient Mesopotamian civilization. First was the ox-drawn plough, and second was the wheel cart. When we talk about the trade, so it is very obvious that in each and every civilization we have seen the trade. So there were extensive trade and with foreign countries, trade across Arabian Sea, eastern coasts of Africa, trade like grain, wool, and textile with them, and exchange these for copper, lead, and precious metal. Now from India they bought back timber and luxury goods like ivory, pierces, spices, and silk. Now, when we talk about the Mesopotamian seal, we have found the Mesopotamian seals in the Indus Valley civilization. When we talk about the transport, wheel carts were used, kelk rafts made logs of wood tied together and bound up by the inflated skins carried goods along the canals. When we talk about one of its cities, that is the Babylon, famous ruler was the Hammurabi, power 1792 BC, first to make legal court system of law. So Hammurabi was the first ruler in the Babylon who made a legal court system of law. In 1901, a black stone slab was found in the Mount of Susa, Iran, inscribed Hammurabi Legal Code. The proof we found of the Hammurabi Legal Code was the black stone slab. It shows law was important 4000 years ago. Also, it shows Hammurabi tried to protect the poor. Now, when we talk about art and architecture, so we have seen the proof of big buildings and parks, many places in western Mesopotamia, hundred of rooms, some of which were decorated with wall paintings, city gates, places and temples glittered with glazed bricks, work in red, blue, yellow, and cream. They were first to use architecture structures like arches, columns, and domes in their public buildings. They were also skilled in metallurgy and carpentry. Now, when we talk about the religion, myth, and rituals they used to follow, Sumerians worshipped nature, gods that were worshipped, and the god of heaven, Enlil, the god of air, Enki, the god of water and earth, Marduk, the god of light. The ziggurat contained images of the god, which were bathed, clothed, and fed every day by the priest. The king, as god, chief representative on earth, had to visit the temple regularly and look after it, so the gods would in turn look after the community. They believed in life after death. When someone died, they put food and other things that the person used in everyday life in the grave. Now, when we talk about the achievements of the Mesopotamians, so the first achievement was the wheel. They built first known wheel cart pottery, first used potter wheel, then made by hand, developed the art of firing bricks in kilns. Now, when we talk about the use of metal, used copper, bronze, and gold to make vessels, tools, and ornaments. First to use iron for making weapons. Now, when we talk about the writing, Sumerian developed first form of writing around 3000 BC. Simple pictures or pictographs were used to denote objects. To denote a person, the symbol they used was the picture of the head. Paper and pen had not been invented then. River reeds were used to make wedge-shaped marking on clay tablets. The word cuneiform thus derived from the two words cunis meaning wedge and form meaning shape. Within the time spirit became alphabetic, the one who learned alphabets were known as scribes. When we talk about the astronomy, they divided the sky in 12 parts such as Leo and Aries divide the day into 24 hours. 60 was their unit of count. 1 hour is equals to 60 minutes is equals to 60 seconds. So 60 was the unit of count. Used lunar calendar, we now use solar calendar invented by Egyptian. In the civilization, they had civilization 12 months, but they had to add an extra month every 2 or 3 years. Decline of the civilization, when we talk about the decline of the civilization, disappear completely after 500 BC, invasion by Persian, Guruk, Armenes and pre-Islamic Arab. The growth of powerful city-state led to unhealthy rivalry. The Euphrates and Tigris River changed their path, which led to gradual drying up of the land. So these were the basic reasons of the decline of the civilization and the basic notes or the short notes of the ancient Mesopotamian civilization. Thank you.